It has not made the government very happy. They see it as a clear sign of nationalism, which they hate. So they obviously want UK to look more like Pakistan for whatever reason.
Are you kidding me? If you wanted to stop this, you just shut it down. And it was not a complicated thing. It's very clear, obvious things that you do to shut that down.
If it went that far, I couldn't see it going anywhere except for like a violent revolution.
Eventually, violence will be met with violence, and it's going to be bad.
At this point, it feels like a tale as old as time. The English people who once had ownership of almost the entire world are now desperately trying to keep ownership over their small island of Britain. So recently, conservatives in the nation held an enormous protest called Unite the Kingdom in London. Here's just one of the pictures of it. Or, of course, as the left-wing UK establishment called it, an extremist, far-right, anti-Muslim rally. However, the attendees of this rally called it a free speech rally, which we'll get into in a little bit here. But Tommy Robinson was the main organizer, and we all know that he got out of jail recently. And I would say he was in jail. He was targeted for bringing too much attention to migrant crime that the UK won't do anything about. Also, Elon Musk made an appearance, a virtual appearance, to this rally, like on a big screen where they had the main stage, and gave a little speech about free speech needed, being important and how it was being trampled on, and definitely about the migrant situations and problems happening in the UK. This is the biggest thing, though. The size of this protest is absolutely insane. I'm going to show you guys some aerial footage here in a second.
Wow.
That's just the beginning of it.
This is just the beginning. I'm going to click through here. But the crazy thing that we need to know, of course, is a few things. One, this was a mostly peaceful protest. There was a skirmish that happened with the police. I think 24 people were arrested. So there was a small skirmish that happened there. But there was no looting or burning of anything. There was no rioting. It was actually a peaceful protest. They carried UK flags, and many of them sang Christian songs. And what was interesting was that the BBC and The Guardian tried super hard to downplay this protest. I saw in a lot of comments from British people that it was similar to, they think that, I think it was 2021, there was a protest against the pandemic restrictions and some of the mandates that were coming from the UK government. And there was some people estimate 2 million, between 1 million and 2 million people out in the streets. And the UK establishment and the BBC, especially, and The Guardian, they just ignored it. They just pretended like it didn't happen. They barely covered it. And this was a similar situation here. They barely covered it. I'm surprised. This is actually a Guardian video. They posted this aerial overshot, but both the BBC and The Guardian have said there were tens of thousands of people, and they're one article that they wrote about this, tens of thousands of people came out for this far right rally here. Organizers claim there were millions of people,
hundreds of
they weren't wrong.
Well, there were thousands of
just
people.
Look at
there,
this, man. This is
so. This keeps going and going and going and going. Some more people. Wait till the end. It's more people.
I mean, look at this. That's how many? That's like amazing. 5 or 10 blocks.
More people.
City blocks too. That's big.
And then right there, look at that. It just even spreads out even more at the end there.
Wow.
And
it
doesn't cover, this footage doesn't cover the rest of it. It doesn't go to the edges to see how much more there were. So I don't know how many people actually were there, but I will say, the organizers said it was in the millions. Some of the people, the police, I think, said it was 100,000. But even there was a counter protest group. They even admitted to their own organization they were upset about this protest, and they were there was 1 million people out on the street, and they were really upset about that. And that's what they said to their own organization there. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. So free speech rally, why do they need a free speech rally? You guys know this. The UK government has been keen on finding people, throwing them in jail for saying things that they don't like. And most of this has been over the endless migration happening in the UK that's made all the normal UK citizens upset, and is waking up lots and lots of people, most people who would not have even considered themselves to be conservative or right-wing. It's just catching everybody. It's just starting to wake up almost the entire native population of the English. they're getting so upset because the government is paying for endless, mostly illegal migrants, but also legal migrants, but endless amounts of them to be housed and fed and receive medical care. So the taxpayers are paying for that. And it's insane how much money they're paying for that. Migrant crime and harassment of women has become a massive problem in the UK, and the police just won't touch it. They refuse to touch it. Muslims are slowly gaining power, bragging about how much power they're gaining. They're starting to push for Sharia law, including blasphemy laws in the nation of England. And they're saying like, yeah, the English government is just allowing us to do this, or eventually England is going to be a Muslim government and we're going to have Sharia law here. And that's their plan. And they're open about that. And if you say anything about this as an English person, you could face punishment for committing a hate crime. And this is why the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, if I'm saying his name right, Keir Starmer, his nickname is Keir Stalin in conservative circles. And they've also started referring to the police as the Stasi, which is the name of the East German KGB, because they will come knocking on your door for posting memes. So that's the situation in England. What do you guys think about what's going on there?
I salute them for having 100,000 people or 1 million people, however many it was, and having a mostly peaceful protest, but also just for getting out there and protesting. You know, I think that is doing something. Obviously, more needs to be done. But yeah, that's hard to do, to have that many people who feel that passionately about something, and yet it's mostly peaceful.
This is obviously striking a chord, because you don't just say things in just the right way and get that many people to come out. I mean, this is speaking to something that is in the hearts and minds of people there. And, I think that this immigration issue obviously is at the center of it, because there's two resources I would recommend, because there's one called World Poverty, Immigration, and Gumballs, presented by Roy Beck. That's on YouTube. And you can see how he basically shows that immigration is not how to solve world poverty. Like, you're moving a 1/10 of a 1% of people is going to do nothing. Even if you overwhelm the places where they come, it just destroys that place and doesn't do anything to help the other place. And so it actually doesn't even help most of the people that go there. And so you're just a lot of times taking the brightest and the best out of those places too. And then there's a book by Barry Asmus. He's an economist, and Wayne Grudem is a theologian. And it's called The Poverty of Nations, A Sustainable Solution. And he talks about how the way we solve this issue is by helping them have local economies there. And I've seen ministries that they go and they literally just bring 5-gallon buckets to people. They bring like 55-gallon buckets when they go and do ministry there, and they leave those buckets there. And that literally, people can start a business with a 5-gallon bucket, because they can carry water, they can carry dirt, they can carry all kinds of things with a 5-gallon bucket. And then you create value by that way there. And so maybe digging a well.
It's like you can teach a man to fish thing. That's exactly what that is. Or you can give a man a fish, or you can teach a man to fish. I don't remember the exact saying.
You can teach a man to fish. You can give a man a fish and feed him for a day. You can teach a man to fish and feed him for a lifetime.
I love that.
The idea here, my whole point in this is that any of these elite or these leaders that say this is out of the goodness of their heart to help these areas, it is garbage. It is scientifically, mathematically impossible. Historically, everything. It will not even move the needle one iota. I mean, it is just absolutely insanity. So it's fake. It's feign. And that's why that's why this has so much popularity, because it's like, we just know that they have a different agenda there, or it's virtue signaling at the best case.
Yeah. Your points remind me of the phrase weaponized empathy. I think people have been throwing around a lot recently. And I think it's a really important phrase, because it gets to the heart of a lot of the left-wing agendas that we've seen, and the globalist agendas on the largest scale, is because it is those kinds of leaders attempt to weaponize people's natural empathy and care and concern for other people. But then you end up getting yourself in this situation where the government is funneling in an unsustainable amount of people to care for them, as if we could somehow pull in the entire third world, and then we're gonna be able to like feed them and care for them as if they were children, and that's going to like solve all the systemic issues and that kind of situation. And it actually only brings another term that I think is useful, which is anarcho tyranny. And anarcho tyranny is a situation exactly what you have in England, where the government is very tyrannical, but they're only tyrannical to the native population because they just want them to get in line with what their agendas that they have. But they also allow anarchy on the streets because it's useful for them. And it's useful for them to have a basically anarchy of these immigrant populations coming in and forming different enclaves that are just operate by their own rules and their own laws, and like white people can't go there. It's not safe if white people can't go there, especially women. You have the rape gangs or the SA gangs. Maybe censor that part out for YouTube. And it's like all that kind of situation. It's the term is anarchy tyranny, because it's both complete anarchy of like they're not actually putting any of the laws in place, but it's also tyranny because if you post a meme about it, the police suddenly are going to be at your doorstep, and you're like, wait a second, what about the migrant crime? How come the police don't respond to that? And it's just like, well, they're responding to particular things so they can push particular agendas, and it is weaponized empathy, and it ends up becoming a tool to be used against the own population of the country. So it's quite startling seeing it play out, and people are starting to wake up to it and realize it's like, no, we shouldn't just allow anybody that says, well, we want to be empathetic, we want to care for people, and if you don't like what we're doing, then you're just racist or xenophobic or whatever. And it's like, we shouldn't just allow that to be like a magic spell that makes everybody go, oh my gosh, you're right, okay, yeah, I'll give you the reins of power, do whatever you want to do, because it's leading the world into a very bad place.
Yeah, I think if they don't do something about it now and they wind up with Sharia law eventually, that I think there's going to be a revolution that takes place after that, because people are going to realize we used to be free and now we're not, and they, some people are realizing now that they're losing their freedoms, obviously. But, if it went that far, I couldn't see it going anywhere except for like a violent revolution. Like, honestly, I don't think, I think that's what would take place. And we've seen obviously the protests have been marred by that a little bit. So like already, which I don't think is necessarily the answer, and I wouldn't advocate for that right now. I'd advocate for something more along the lines of what Elon Musk was saying at the protest, but which is to fix the government you have, and we the people standing up and actually like creating a better government. But yeah, what happened was 3 months ago in June, there's a small Northern Ireland town called Ballymena, and they, over the course of 3 nights of violent riots and lighting stuff on fire and using patrol bombs, they drove the Romanian migrants out of their town completely. Wow. And they were like saying this when asked like, why'd y'all do this? Like, they said the same thing. They were like, well, they were harassing our women constantly, dumping garbage, selling drugs, and, doing all these things that were like intimidating us. And like, we finally had enough, like, yeah. It's like,
eventually violence will be met with violence, and it's
and I'm not advocating for that, but at the same time, you can see just in that example, you can see how extreme it's gotten and how desperate some people have gotten.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's like, man, if you want to fix this, now's the time.
That's what I say. They're ahead of the curve here. I mean, it really, a lot of damage has been done, but it still is at the point where speaking up can make a difference in showing the leaders that this needs to happen. But I mean, you can see how that could happen with like the example you gave. I mean, it starts with maybe a neighborhood watch with a few neighbors, and that could go to maybe a larger neighborhood and others that, we're going to at least start by protecting our neighborhood, and whatever happens, and then go, and it could just expand from there. And so, taking it in their own hands. But yeah, like, I think it's important that they're actually taking the actions now, and praise God for that, because they can avoid the need for the more escalation.
I do want to point out something that is quite unfortunate about the way that the UK government is set up. And unfortunately, they're not quite as representative of their people as they are here in the United States. And I'm not saying the United States is perfect. Obviously, it's not. But the UK definitely has a lot of issues, even just like systemically. And pointing this out is because a lot of times when people will be like, well, you guys, the reason this is happening is because you, the English population, y'all voted for this. You're just getting what you voted for, right? You must have voted in these people who have opened up the doors to bring in all these immigrants. And what I've seen from the people in England that are trying to tackle this issue and talking about these issues, they actually show the receipts and show all the previous elections that basically any time that the English people have had a chance to show up to the polls and try to cast their vote in a way that would say, we do not want more immigration. We want someone to solve this issue. This is getting out of hand. I think for the last 10 years, maybe 15 years, the English people have done so. And they've actually have tried to even showing up at the polls, are like over the majority, over 50% of people have attempted to get in politicians and get in referendums and all that kind of stuff. Even the fact that they did Brexit, the huge reason they did Brexit, which most of the country voted for, was so they could get out of uncontrolled immigration. And it only got worse because their politicians betrayed them. And so it's a situation that's unfortunate is they have their government and their politicians keep betraying them. And even though they keep pushing and pushing in peaceful means, they keep getting betrayed. And so that's why, unfortunately, in the UK, there's a lot of talk about civil war. And they're very serious about it because they're like, if we can't vote our way out of this, we keep voting, and we have a majority of the people who are, even the people that are left leaning now are like, we have to do something about immigration. This is getting bad, and it's still not being solved. So like, so how do you solve it? Earlier, before this protest, this is kind of like the culmination of this sort of movement that was happening. This has been happening since August, maybe even July, but they've had this movement called the Raise the Colors movement. And it's basically conservatives there encouraging everybody to raise St. George flag, which is the flag of England, which is one of the many flags that combined makes the Union Jack. Some people have been raising the Union Jack or some of their other flags, but for the most part, there's been thousands and thousands of St. George flags going up all over the country. And it's indicative of the fact that they don't have freedom of speech. And so they're doing this as a way to be like, we're English. We don't want to be taken over, our country to be taken over by migrants. And this is like their kind of sign for doing that. It has not made the government very happy. They see it as a clear sign of nationalism, which they hate. They obviously want UK to look more like Pakistan for whatever reason. So a lot of them have been getting taken down, but they put up just way too many to ever take them all down. I mean, thousands
you can't
and thousands.
Raise your own nation's flag. It's like your nation is destroyed. Like that's crazy.
No, that's a problem.
Seeing that you're raising your own flag is like, that's a problematic thing, because they're very much, they're saying, oh, these people are extremists.
That means the government is no longer for England. Like that's what that means.
Right.
Yeah,
man. Trump actually met with Starmer earlier today. I don't know if y'all knew that, but he's in the UK right now.
Yes.
Yeah, he had quite the royal procession.
Yeah, he had a bunch of people protesting his arrival as well. He had a bunch of people show up, but he actually addressed this issue earlier today. And one of the things he said the day that we're filming this is he said he got the illegal immigration in the U.S. down to zero. Now, obviously, he addressed is the illegal immigration, not necessarily like the legal migrant immigration. But this was one of the issues that he ran for, he said. And then he told Starmer he has to stop it. You have to put a stop to this. He said it doesn't matter how, you have to stop it. He even suggested using the military. And Starmer just said, well, it's a problem across all of Europe, and so we're just going to let it happen. Excuses.
What's really funny is people are be like the boats that they have that come to England. People have pointed out, people say like, oh, these people are fleeing these other countries, like they're fleeing, Syria or wherever it is, wherever they're coming from, different countries in Africa. And then people point out, no, they're not fleeing those countries. They're fleeing France. Because they're all coming from France. They're already there. They're already in Europe. They're already in France. Wow. Literally, the English military, the Navy, could literally just drive some boats around and be like, turn them back around. And they still have boats coming up on their shore. Yeah, and it's like they're literally fleeing France to get to you guys right now. So like, you could turn them around and send them back to France if you really wanted to.
Yeah, that response is just pathetic. Like, I mean, I can't believe, like, I ran a large manufacturing line, and you'd be shocked that when you actually take ownership of something, like, you can resolve it pretty quickly. And this example, like you just gave with the boats, it's like, there's so many of them, Yeah, like, what are we gonna do? Like, are you kidding me? If you wanted to stop this, you exactly like Trump said. I mean, dude, you just shut it down, and it was not a complicated thing. It's very clear, obvious things that you do to shut that down.
It's very, very clear, very easy. Just to cap this off with a little funny thing. So another thing people have been doing, and I also don't. I don't encourage this because it is technically vandalism, but people have been spraying the St. George cross on roundabouts, and that's been happening all over the place. And then immediately, of course, the local government comes out and tries to cover it up as quick as they can. And people notice that and realize, oh, wow, the government is like responding to this and repainting the roundabouts really quickly if we just spread like a little red cross on them. So very quickly, people realize that if they wanted to take care of any other sort of problems like graffiti or anything else like that, they really could just start spraying like St. George's crosses. And so this one young bloke got the great idea his town was having all kinds of potholes.
That's awesome.
And so he started painting the white background Red Cross, St. George's Cross, in the potholes in order to make the local government come out and fill the potholes.
That is hilarious. I got to say one more.
So
I got to say one more thing about England. So I went to London, I think one time, and so they drive on the left side of the road there, not the right side of the road. And the entire time I was there for several days, I went to the wrong side of the car. Okay. Every single time, 100% of the time. And at least 3 or 4 times, I did not drive there, but at least 3 or 4 times, I thought the guy was turning into traffic, and I freaked out because I thought he was turning into traffic, and no, he was just driving on the correct side of the road. And so 3 days, nothing changed. It was like that the entire time I was there. So it takes some time to adjust. That's all I'll say.
I have a story about that, which one time Troy really freaked me out, and I thought he was joking. It turned out he was not joking at all. One time, Troy and our other brother went to New Zealand for like a week, and they also drive on the left side of the road, and they were driving around New Zealand in a rented car for a week straight. And he got back to the States, and he was driving. I think it was after church. He was driving, and I was in the back seat or the passenger car or whatever. And what tripped him up was taking left turns in intersections. When you take a left turn, a 4-way stop, he didn't know where to go anymore. So he starts to take this left turn, and he gets like a quarter of the way, and he literally asked me, which lane do I go into? And I thought he was joking. I like laughed about it. And then he started to go into the left lane, like towards traffic. And I was like, the right lane. Like, what are you doing?
There's a lot of automatic programming that goes in, and you start to mess with that, man. I understand that. I totally understand that. You know how much we can drive without even thinking about it.
Mm-hmm. I cannot confirm or deny that story. So.
It happened. I remember. I have vivid memories of it.